What should we get into today? Do you know one thing we should get into, because we've been going back and forth on it a little bit?
Go on.
Let's start with it. The 10 bodyweight squats.
Oh, mate, yes. Yeah.
Let's start with it. Run people through this, because I've now been, since you sent me it and I listened to the full version, I've been actually suggesting it to clients.
Mate, it's real. So Dr. Anna Patrick, she's like 2 PhDs, a master's. She's a smart cookie. She's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. She has her own podcast now, Find My Fitness. Interestingly, have you ever gone on her website?
No.
So if you've got anything like 23andMe and another genetic testing, you basically pay her like, she's got another algorithm. It's like $5, $10, and input your stuff across. It gives you even more information.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mate. It's fascinating.
We'll explain to you what it means.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
Layman's terms, I did it probably 3-4 years ago. And don't get me wrong, some of it's way above anything I ever studied or knew anything about. So I went directly to my sister, who works in a lab as a scientist, and she kind of explained what more of it meant to me. But either way, so Dr. Anna Patrick, she basically did a study. She looks at lots of different things, how lifestyle factors influence people. And she's basically did a study, and she proved that doing 10 bodyweight squats every 45 minutes is as effective as a 30-minute walk at regulating blood glucose. Now, the key thing here is you're not going to burn the same amount of calories as a 30-minute walk. It's not about calories, so don't think about that, but it's regulating blood glucose, which is incredibly important for people that are sedentary, because obviously we know that if most diets now high in carbohydrates, high in sugar, that then creates a resistance to insulin in the body, which makes them become insulin resistant, which makes lots of metabolic conditions become prevalent in the body. So basically what she said is that every 45 minutes you do 10 bodyweight squats, you basically reset blood glucose in the blood and go again, essentially what it is.
Question to clarify on that, because this is one of the first things that came to my mind. So what she's comparing there is 10 bodyweight squats every 45 minutes.
Yes.
The equivalent to one 30-minute walk. So to match that, you have to do not just, so what I'm trying to get at is people might hear it and go, well, instead of doing a 30-minute walk, I'll do one set of 10.
It's not that.
You have to do the 10 reps every 45 minutes start the day.
Yeah.
But still, if you look at, like, no matter where you are, you could be on a plane, airport, desk, anywhere. 10 bodyweight squats takes not even 10 seconds to do.
Yeah.
Once every 45 minutes is a lot less time draining, or certainly a lot easier to program into your schedule than a specific 30-minute minute walk. Obviously, additional benefits to 30-minute walk, as you said, your heart rate, the calories that you burn, getting outside, attaching all of that stuff. But still, when we're looking for optimization and some really simple, easy fixes and some quick wins, that's a huge one, isn't it?
And it's not just to think about you resetting. So we all sort of, we know, like, people say, oh, the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock lull, where everyone's like powering down. But part of that can be the fact that typically most lunches, it could be 100 grams of carbohydrates people eat. Guess what?
I'll tell you what I used to do before you go on. Right, so when I was in my previous job traveling around the UK installing IT kit and whatnot,
you're about to say something horrible, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I would go to, and I was training, and at the end of each job, we would have to lift like these sometimes 200 kilo copiers up 3 flights of stairs. I'd burn a lot of calories so I could get away with it. But we would go to Morrison's supermarket here in the UK, get an extra large, they used to have like a deal, I don't know if they do anymore, but an extra large salad bowl.
Yeah.
So like unreal stuff, actually. It's making me crave one. Spicy chicken Cajun pasta.
Right.
You'd have like boiled eggs, your couscous, your carrots. So like it was somewhat healthy stuff. Yeah. There's so much pasta. There's probably 250 grams of carbs. And then you go to the 7-fry counter.
And get something like that.
And I'll get some fried chicken fillets, like 5 or 6 of them. And I would smash that before like a 4-hour journey home. And I would literally be
passing out
like at the wheel. And I'd come around sometimes and I'd be like, I can't remember the last 2 hours of that journey.
Mate.
I'd just like completely zoned out. But yeah, you're right. I imagine so many people in their day-to-day life with lunches go and get sandwiches or a baguette or pastas or whatever. And you get to that time in the day and cortisol's up a little bit, fatigue sets in, and it's a potent mix, isn't it? You just feel like shit.
Zapped. And the idea is that part of that, I mean, there could be lots of influence factors, but part of that's definitely going to be the way in which your body's metabolizing glucose, or at least you're utilizing it. And we know that if you're what we call glucose sensitive, or sorry, insulin sensitive, which basically means that your body's well regulated in terms of the amount of glucose you intake. So try to roll back a little bit. So glucose goes in the body. We can store around 20 grams in the blood. Anything more than 20 grams, that elicits an insulin response, which basically, unless there's insulin, we can't get glucose amino acids into the muscle, into the mitochondria.
It's the DPD man of the...
Yeah, basically, it is. Yeah, you're right. It is. It's delivery man.
Royal Mail.
Without that, we can't get it into the muscle. We can't get to the mitochondria. We can't burn it. It can't become fuel. So ultimately, we need insulin to get it in. There's another thing we can talk about for exercise that elicits a similar response, but for now, glucose is the man. We know that the more you consume, and the less you regulate, in terms of exercise, you're going to start to build a resistance to that. Same as like any other, drugs, painkillers. People that take, I take 5-6 paracetamol because I get no response. Exact same thing is that the body starts to build a resilience to it. Because there's never a reset, you might need 1 gram of insulin. These are rough numbers. 1 gram of insulin for every 1 gram of glucose, right? If you keep having to demand more and more insulin for the same amount of glucose, eventually you'll need 2 grams of 2 grams of insulin for 1 gram of glucose. Again, these are rough numbers, they're not real. But the point I'm trying to say is you eventually need 3-4 times the amount of insulin to get the same amount of glucose in to the muscle. So the resistance starts to build up. That can then affect that, obviously, the 3-4 o'clock, the lull comes in because your body's working so hard trying to get glucose in. If you've got a high resistance, it can't. So guess what? Your muscles are now starved of some energy, and we start to flatline a little bit. So what the bodyweight squats, the idea is that every 45 minutes, them 10 squats basically resets our blood glucose. There's something called a GLUT4 transponder, which basically inside the muscle, when we use glycogen and glucose, we deplete that store. Naturally, the body and the muscles want more glucose. We want to maintain glycogen stores. So that GLUT4 transponder, when we exercise, opens up, allows glucose to come in. So it's like a cheap mechanism. It's like the Hermes of deliveries, mate. It gets in there. So by doing them bodyweight squats, we're naturally opening up a pathway to allow glucose to come into the muscle, and we're also burning a little bit of that glucose as well. So basically every hour we're resetting the levels down back to 0, so that level of resistance and intolerance doesn't accumulate. That's the theory behind it. But also in terms of, like, you think of sedentary lifestyle, if you can do like a decent bodyweight squat, your mobility is improved, and that mobility is enable you to be more comfortable in a seated position, say, because we're strengthening your hip flexors, you're strengthening your glutes, you're moving as you're intended to. I guarantee if you're doing that, you're less likely to have any form of injury. And also in terms of performance, we know that if you move more frequently, we all know that if you go for a 20-30 minute walk, you might have felt tired at the start, and actually you come back and you feel a bit rejuvenated, don't you? Because we've allowed blood flow, more blood's gone to the brain, we've allowed more perfusion of oxygen. Same things that happen with them bodyweight squats. So not only does it reset glucose, which is fantastic for sort of metabolic conditions, but there's so many other massive knock-on effects. It's huge. It is a game changer, and particularly for people that we work with, like you said, people that are getting flights. How easy to do 10 bodyweight squats?
Yeah, that's no excuse.
It's easy, isn't it? Even go to the toilet and do it. And it sounds daft, but if you were worried,
some bot squats onto the shit.
Just don't hit the flush button, maybe vacuum away. But it sounds daft, but they're the little, we talk about quick and easy wins. That's 100% one of them now.
Yeah. Let's transition into a huge topic, and if you're listening, go away and implement that if it's something you struggle with, in terms of like finding time to get exercise in, or just improve, or find these small daily wins, like even on top of what you're doing, add that in. Let's talk about the ketogenic diet.
Oh, mate.
This is a huge topic. This is going straight in as the headline of the podcast.
You're probably one of the few people I know that has successfully sustained a ketogenic diet for a prolonged period of time. You probably honestly probably are. I've tried it for I think I did 3 days. I kid you not, mate. You don't realise how much, and this comes on to another topic related to ketogenic, but you don't realise how much carbohydrates and wheat-based products are in lots of different food.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
It's mad. It's everything.
Yeah, to keto is a real commitment. It's such a strange thing because so for context, I was put on keto for the prep of my first bodybuilding comp, natural bodybuilding comp. It killed me. Spent about 20 weeks in ketosis. Near enough that whole time. I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure I broke it. I may have broke it once for like a small thing strategically. I can't really remember, but certainly sustained it for a long period of time. Now I had a reason and a purpose and a why. A lot of people I speak to, and there's tons of people out there doing it now successfully and who live that way. There's people who have tried it and it was successful for them and have bounced back, as we'll get into, and as you just alluded to. I don't know if it's like anything. I don't know if it's a strategy for fat loss. It is a strategy for fat loss in terms of it will help you oxidize body fat. But if that's the only reason you're doing it, I still don't think it's a good thing to do.
No.
Like, I know I'm extremely carb sensitive. I operate well in ketosis. I feel mental, cognitive focus, mental clarity, performance to a certain degree. My strength does go down. Physique wise, I look better and I look healthier and I feel really good day to day. But what you compromise is, and actually I did pretty well training wise, even resistance training. Like, in the early part of it, I was still pretty strong.
Really?
So maybe my propensity for it is a little bit higher than others. Like I said, my carb sensitivity is pretty high, so I react quite negatively to carbs. But trying to factor that into a lifestyle is extremely difficult. And you said that it successfully. I don't know whether I would have done it if I didn't have, I was under guidance for it. And secondly, kind of, it was like, do this. And then secondly to that, I obviously had the goal of in mind getting on stage and wanted to be in condition. So I had like that kind of external thing driving
and a supportive,
me.
supportive partner.
Yeah.
That's another. That's, mate. We talk about influences. That's a huge thing.
That's true. People. Yeah, that is absolutely true. That's a whole nother topic, is making sure the people around you don't drag you away from who you want to be. And my wife's incredible, but I understand why people do it. It's a big thing. It's like fasting. What do you think the key to building that into their life consistently is? If they wanted to, that is. And second question to that, to layer on top, what are the pros and the cons? Let's get into that.
I think so. In terms of a ketogenic diet, pros and the cons. And this could go down a rabbit hole, so you have to hold the reins here for a second, mate, because I could go down.
I'll be the mediator.
Yeah, mate. There's quite a few channels that go down. So start off in terms of there is some evidence to suggest that a ketogenic diet is anti-cancerous, and the reason for that is that we basically have carbohydrates and proteins are around 4 calories per gram. Fats 9 calories per gram. A ketone is a form of fat. It's a shorter chain fatty acid. That's around 7 calories. It's easier for the body to burn a ketone than it is to burn fat. They're basically the same thing, but they're not. That's a whole different conversation. So some cancer cells, they can't metabolize ketones. So there is empirical evidence out there as well that doctors have put patients on a ketogenic diet and their cancer has gone into remission because that particular type of cancer can't metabolize a ketone. So basically it can't seem to function and it dies.
And the role of glucose when it comes to cancer
is the growth factor.
That metabolizing, so that's it. Again, that's another subject. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be mediating you on another channel.
But it's exactly that. Yeah. So the cancer, if you think in terms of how cancer is, the reason why it's so prevalent, so deadly, is that it's a cell that's got abnormalities that's allowed to grow, and the body doesn't recognize its genetic makeup. Looks like, if it's meant to be a skin cell, it looks like a skin cell, but it's not reacting in the way in which we expect it to. So the body can't. We get something called targeted cell death, which basically the body recognizes something's wrong. It basically triggers that cell to die, basically. And with cancers, what happens is that response hasn't happened, and we're allowing something malignant to grow. Depending on the type of cancer, we said some of them can't metabolize ketones. So the only way in which it can be effective without having radiotherapy or chemotherapy is literally you're essentially starving that cell, and eventually it dies, and then the body comes along and says, "Oh, it's dead." Breaks it down, removes it, and there is, like I said, there is some empirical evidence for that. So there is a suggestion that maybe that's beneficial. I'm not a doctor, so don't take that for gospel, but we know that's an influencing factor. The other really interesting thing is that people with epilepsy with ketogenic diet is that there's some interaction between how glucose passes the blood-brain barrier and how that influences epilepsy. I can't tell you, well, I'm not a neuroscientist, I can't give you the ins and outs of it, but for whatever reason, there is, again, a lot of evidence out there that people with epilepsy, very severe epilepsy, when given a ketogenic diet, almost completely stops their epileptic fits and allows them to regain a lot of normality in their life. They function perfectly well, and there's no negative repercussions. So in terms of medically, there's kind of two times of which I've read about and heard about it, sort of cancerous regimes and people with epilepsy. I've definitely heard and read ketogenic diet is like a godsend for them. Other interesting thing is for Navy divers, which I remember reading about this. You ever heard of raspberry ketones?
Yeah.
So basically, this is kind of stretching my memory now from what I remember. But long story short, depending on the depth you dive, lots of things happen in terms of the pressure on the body. You have to mix different gases because of the interactions of how certain gases react in the body and the bends and yada, lots of different things. But an interesting thing is at certain depth, if you're on a ketogenic diet, again, comes back to that blood-brain barrier, ketones can react to metabolize in a different way to glucose. So you can basically have divers go to deeper depths and have less likely of having interruptions in their kind of neurological conditions. So there is reports of divers that work on a ketogenic diet basically having you get essentially get sort of the word now. You lose your mind basically because of how nitrogen affects the body. Yeah. Same with nitric oxide. If someone's hurt on land now, paramedics will give nitric oxide, and it gives you this high, and you get all confused. Well, divers are having that, and when you're pretty deep in the water, coming up pretty fast, not good.
Yeah.
So they use that to regulate and control or help regulate and control the sort of neurological conditions of divers. So we know that the ketogenic diet has an effect on how the brain functions and reacts in high pressure situations. We know that also obviously affects some type of cancer, and we know epilepsy. So they're the three instances that I know there's definite benefits for it. Outside of that, probably wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
Because it's so. I tried it for like 2-3 days, and I just got to the stage where I was like, I can't function on this. And part of that probably was.
It's so interesting you say that.
To be honest with you, I think what it was is that I hadn't set myself up well enough to sustain it. I kind of go, you know what, fuck it, I'll be keto today, and I'll see how long I'm going to go for. Zero prep, other than I can't eat carbohydrates. Well, mate, sausages have carbohydrates in them.
Yeah.
Because of what the actual line is made from it.
Yeah.
And it just, I didn't prepare myself well enough. And interestingly, doing the 23andMe, I think it was 23andMe, my kind of genetic makeup was I don't react well to high fatty foods. And we've had a conversation before about if I go out for a brunch, mate, I am like shitting for the next couple of hours. Just does not sit well with me. And even like KFC, just that high oil based, high fat products just do not sit well with me.
And I'm somewhat, which kind of backs up your statement and mine. Like I've there's no doubt I felt incredible for the first part of that. If I was not in a calorie deficit and I was not doing it on prep, I felt incredible on it. Like
it's so interesting.
Even like I said, even performance in training in the early part of it, I felt really, really good. I can have a high fat meal and I feel great. If I lower carbohydrates, I feel like absolute shit. So this comes down to the importance again of what we do when it comes to the coaching, but something everyone needs to take away. We're all different.
Yeah.
So you have to spend time investing into understanding yourself. And that doesn't mean listening to polarizing views on podcasts or reading books or picking what a guy in shape you follow on Instagram or social media does. It means truly exploring and trying to be in tune and listen to your body and take notes and understand, okay, how am I functioning? How am I feeling? Why is that? And then actioning on the back end. So taking some stuff out. So explain, let's run through the process of why people will drop body fat
with it
through keto. Because obviously that's, I would imagine, why a lot of people initiate it.
Yeah. So the key thing is, so glycogen stores. So we primarily store most of our glycogen in our liver, and that can be 120 grams basically. Is what they normally say. And then obviously,
it's crazy that, isn't it? It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and essentially your liver glycogen store is like your old shit fund. That is like the ultimate savings account. So what happens is if you're ever in a spate condition where like fasting, anything like that, where there is no incoming energy, no source of glucose or carbohydrate, your body will deplete muscle glycogen first. So we have a little bit of store, I say a little bit, we have stores of glycogen in the muscles. Glycogen itself is water insoluble. So basically it sits there, there's lots of different things working inside that muscle, but it can't just run away. It's not like you eat loads of carbohydrates, drink loads of water, you can't flush it out, if that makes sense. That's how I was trying to describe it.
It's got to be used or stored.
Exactly that. And if it doesn't get stored in the muscle, well, guess what happens? It becomes adipose tissue, which is fat. That's the way it works. So we have a finite store base, is what I'm trying to get at.
So just to touch on that and pause for a second, sorry to interrupt you, for people listening, that's an important thing to know, and that's why your high carb, high sugar diet is
making you fat.
It's making you fat. It's not because you're eating fat.
No, not at all.
It's the carbohydrates, the kind of glucose or glycogen response that's happening.
Exactly that.
Sorry to jump across you. I just wanted to highlight.
No, that's okay. So initially, a ketogenic diet, like I've already said, no incoming source of glucose. So the body goes, right, okay, I've got plenty of stored energy. And at that point in time, because most people will be pretty inefficient at burning fats, because fat oxidation takes a lot of energy, takes more oxygen. So in terms
typically lower heart rate zones.
Yeah, because again, you need to have a certain amount of oxygen to metabolize and break down that fat to get ATP. Again, it becomes very scientifically based, but different processes basically, and it takes a lot more energy to get energy from that. So because people aren't used to that, all of a sudden, spate conditions, all you're eating is fat, the body goes, right, okay, I've got some glycogen, we can use that because we're pretty good at using glucose to get ATP. So your body releases something called glucagon, and basically what glucagon is, because glycogen in the muscle is water insoluble, glucagon basically comes along and is the messenger, like, right, come with me. That starts liberating glycogen, which turns into glucose. We metabolize that. But obviously, because we're not eating carbohydrates, you're depleting a source and it's never being restored. So eventually, you'll reach a stage where you're out of glycogen in the muscles and your glycogen stores in your liver start to diminish. When that glycogen store in the liver diminishes, that's when we trigger ketosis. The body goes, shit, we're running low on stores. I want to keep hold of something in here because this is my old dear fund. I need to start increasing fat oxidation. We need to start using more fat. So that triggers that response. So when people say, oh, I've lost 5 pounds, Jamie, 2 days. No, you've not. You've lost the glycogen you've stored in your body. And with that storage of glycogen, there is some water because of how it stores in the body and the muscle. So all you've done is you've lost stored energy and you've lost some water, which equates to weight. And guess what? You probably look a little bit trimmer because you've lost water weight.
The fat oxidation hasn't quite occurred yet.
No, you haven't quite crossed the boundary yet because it takes time. Like everything's on a delay. So you basically deplete everything down. There's nothing left, and eventually you'll get to a stage where your body will start producing ketones. And the way in which you turn in ketosis is you can get like some people say your breath smells garlicky, which is a trigger, but not everyone gets that. But the other thing is you can get ketone testing strips. So basically you pee on it and it comes up because you're now expressing ketones in your urine, basically. Once you've reached that stage, you're now burning ketones as energy, and people they call it like a keto cold. Do you ever have that? Because again, I've never sustained it long enough to know that, but
no, I didn't experience. To be honest with you, I didn't experience a lot of what a lot of people say, and
that's
the
interesting.
time delay in, or like how you feel as your body is going through the process of depleting and then moving into ketosis. I didn't really experience any of that.
Which probably comes back to your genotype.
Yeah.
As you've already said, you're probably one of the few people that say one of few. You're someone that's clearly well geared towards that. So people talk about keto flu, where they feel rough, they feel horrible because they're just energyless, because the body isn't very efficient at creating energy out of fat. Eventually, you'll move through a phase, and then your body will burn primarily ketones. And in happy days, you're good to go. And then you can sustain that for as long as you can sustain it. But the problem is, as soon as you eat carbohydrates, it's depending on how long you've been in ketosis for and at what level you eat, you knock yourself out of ketosis. So the body thinks glycogen's coming back in now, we're getting more glucose, right? Ace, shut that function down, because that function takes a lot of energy in terms of lots of oxygen has to go in to help liberate that. Yes, energy yield from it's quite high, but I've got to spend a lot to get some. Whereas glucose is like instantaneous energy, very low input, very high reward. So the body is a survival mechanism. And I say to people, it'll pick the path of least resistance, and you have zero control because it wants to sustain you and survive. That's that primal brainstem part of our brain. It goes, right, that's easier, we'll use that. So yeah, typically 2 to 4 weeks, people in ketosis if they're really strict, and from there on in, you essentially you still have to be in a calorie deficit. So that's the key thing to take away: is you can't be in ketosis and still eat 3,000 calories and only burn 2,000. You still have to have a caloric deficit, because that's going to trigger your body to utilize the stores. It just means that you're basically forcing your body to be more efficient at burning fat. And if you've got a large amount of body fat, you've got more of a store to pull from. The interesting thing with ketosis is that most people feel more satiated because it's higher fat, higher protein food, and it takes longer to digest. So people typically don't eat as much. And in terms of if they were to record what they eat, I've had one person that I worked with doing ketosis, and literally he ate whatever he wanted for the first couple of weeks, and he reached a stage where like he probably burnt, I hazard a guess, 3,000 calories a day, and he probably ate about 800 calories, and that he was fine with that because he felt full, didn't feel depleted, didn't feel tired, felt great. And interesting, that person, his sleep got better. He has a real bad sleep apnea. Sleep was fine.
That's one thing that like I recognized early on in the process was how everything else changed. So sleep changed. One of the biggest thing that most people who've been through will experience, will talk about, is the flat line of energy.
Yes,
you don't have the peaks, the troughs. You feel pretty on it, all day, and then that wind down process at the end of the day, as you move towards sleep, just feels a little bit more natural.
Wow.
Like I said, at least that was my experience. Because this is something that thought about doing again.
Yeah.
Because of my experience with it previously, and now not being on prep, there's probably a lot that I can get out of it.
Yeah.
But I train and I play sport. So when let's say I'm going to play 90 minutes of football, I can't do that. Or I probably could do that, but I'm not going to be as effective in ketosis. So if I was to live in ketosis for, let's say, 6 days of the week, and then or 5 days of the week, on the 6th day, halfway through the day, pre-day before the game, I induce some glycogen, stop the keto pathway, induce glycogen, hopefully fill up glycogen. Well, you would fill up glycogen stores, body's good response, load a little bit more into that day, play the game, a little bit after, then back into
it.
So how do you feel like that would disrupt the pathways? I guess the ultimate answer is it comes down to the person's propensity and how their body reacts to that, doesn't it?
It's again, I've not got any lived experience of that, but in terms of sports science, what I've studied and what I've read is that if people that are highly accustomed to it, as in they spent a long period of time in ketosis, they can quite quickly rebound. And we know that now there's quite a few ultramarathon runners that spend literally majority of their time in ketosis.
Really?
Yeah, because if
Didn't know that.
people talk about the wall, don't they? You know, the people that run
Yes.
marathons, so I hit the wall. And what that basically is that
That switch.
yeah, you've depleted yourself of glycogen, you've ran out of instant energy, and your body's now going to start burning fat. Well, guess what happens if you're not used to burning fat, like we've already alluded to? Takes a fuck ton of oxygen.
The body's going, fuck,
Yeah,
where
literally
can I
panicking,
find it
panicking.
from? Yeah.
And you can't sustain it. Say, example, you're running an 8-minute mile pace.
Yeah.
You ain't going to sustain that unless you're used to metabolizing fat, because you just, more oxygen has to be taken away from exercising muscles to make energy, to liberate energy from the fat. So you're basically depleting that level. And you also can't produce energy fast enough to match demand. So naturally, intensity has to drop. So the wall is basically that you've depleted glycogen, you've ran out of instant energy, and the body's going, oh fuck. And
so they spend more time in
ketosis. Yeah.
So that when that wall comes,
mate, it supposedly never comes
yeah.
because they're so accustomed to burning fat.
The glycogen and the fuel early is a bonus.
It's like rocket fuel to them, because we don't have. It sounds daft because of how our bodies are designed and what we know in terms of the interaction of glucose with muscles and exercise. You don't have to train that.
Yeah.
It sounds daft to say you have to train your body to burn ketones, because most of us in our lives, it's so glucose dominant and fueled by that, is that it's easy.
Yeah.
There's no kind of, like I said, it's quick, easy win. So most ultra marathoners now, majority of the time, say most, the ones I've researched and looked into, because around ketosis, majority, I'd say 80% of the time, ketosis. And when it comes to high performance days or races, like you just said, big fuel loading, sometimes 2-3 times the body weight in carbohydrates. And when they go and run, most of them people, again, not all of them, the ones I've looked at, the ultramarathons, they're winning it. Yeah. Because there is, like you said, it's
That's so interesting.
Energy.
I honestly didn't know that, but it makes so much sense. One thing I always think about it, based on, again, my experience, I think that's the best thing to go off for me. Like I am a huge fan of it, and I would say I'm a proponent for it, but I don't put my clients on it because the whole ethos around what we're trying to do, to find consistency is about the balance. A lot of them travel for business, they do client entertaining, there's some drinking involved, they want to go out, they want to enjoy some Italian, so how do you fit that into ketosis or the keto diet? It's very, very difficult.
It is.
And what I don't want their experience with us to be as a phase within their life, they see some cool results because they're on keto on the most part, and then at the end they revert back to type. And in my experience, where I have done it in the past, that's always what happens. So I go back and forth in my mind with this. Is like, how do you, I guess it's education, but how do you implement it safely and strategically for the people that we would work with, to have the desired effect in terms of composition change, which is a nice bonus, but ultimately to reinforce that the reason why we're doing this is because of other potentially limiting lifestyle factors. We want to try and reduce your cause mortality or whatever it may be. It's finding that cross section and that balance between that, because it would be so easy. We could turn around to everyone we work with and go, right, mate, you're going on keto, and they would see some unbelievable results, and they'd feel great, and they'd be, oh my God, this is incredible, best thing I've ever done. But as you've experienced, they're probably not going to sustain it. So what would you say for someone now listening, thinking either they've done it before and it worked, maybe I'll go back to it, or they're thinking, I really want to try it, maybe that's a lifestyle for me? What are the things that obviously I have my own opinion, but what are the things that you would consider before saying yes or no?
It comes back to why they're doing it. Like what? Because again, selfishly, having tried it and not worked out, I know there's benefits to it, but then like risk versus reward. Risk is probably the wrong word for it. But no. Let's say risk versus reward, right? I put someone on a ketogenic diet. The risk is the compliance for that. If someone that's never ever, done it before, we're now asking somebody that's potentially never tracked the food or had a sort of a conscious idea of what they're consuming. Keto is like high compliance, be able to tolerate very strict way of living, I think the risk early doors is they're going to go, fuck this. I can't do this. This is too much.
Yeah.
This is too much, too hard, too much too soon. I'm out.
And on the contrary to that, in a strange way, again, I guess this comes down to, or definitely comes down to, in our experience, personality types. For some people, it will be easier to adhere to because they don't have there's clear barriers.
Yeah.
You eat this, you don't fucking eat this.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people that we work with who are, they're disciplined, they're hardworking, they're execs, they're leaders, etc. They've kind of got that trait. It's easier to be all in and just go, okay, well, that's just fucking, I know I just don't do that. And I'll figure out than to go, okay, well, my coach is telling me I've got a little bit of flexibility here.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What can I have when I kind of, sometimes they need more guidance. I'm a big proponent for actually pushing. You don't need the intense structure.
No.
We need to build this together. Like patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
We'll figure this thing out. But that's an interesting point. You're right. There will be some people within that who are like, fucking no chance. I can't do this. So it's finding, I guess you got to understand the individual, or for you listening, understand yourself.
Yeah.
And test it. And trial it. And understand how your body functions on it.
Yeah, and let's just be saying the risks are non-compliance. I think the reward is what you've just said. Is the reward is you create a structure that is literally no cheesecake.
Yeah.
Plenty of eggs. Plenty of bacon. Plenty of steak. Plenty of things that most people like eating.
Yeah.
Realistically, if like a bacon sandwich is great, or take away the sandwich part.
Yeah.
As much bacon as you want. I think you're probably right in terms of the reward side to it is things that people enjoy. The steaks, like venison burgers, whatever it is, you can eat as much of that as you want. You just can't eat carbohydrate-based sources. So, me saying that, you're right. I think it depends on the person and what you're trying to get out of it. And it's in a form of elimination diet, isn't it? You're eliminating typically food sources. Like most people eat not great lunches. Like if we went out now, like what is it? Almost 12 o'clock here. If we went out now and looked at what people are buying, like there's a toaster shop over the way.
I still haven't been there yet.
Mate, it's great. It's great. Not good for ketogenic diet, but
no, we're a meal deal nation.
That's the point.
Our workforce, our society is built on
Greg's sausage
meal
rolls.
deal. Yeah,
steak bake.
Greg's sausage rolls and the coffee. It's the Tesco.
What's most
triple chicken. Yeah, it's just all
carbs.
That. Yeah, and it loaded with carbohydrates. Yeah, you're right. One thing. Sorry if I'm deviating on what we just talking about. Right. One thing. So going back pre-birth of Luca, my son, he's coming up to 12 months old. And I mentioned this to you before, I was probably in the best shape I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Now, what I was doing there technically is not keto, but my diet was pretty much protein, vegetables, fruits, which isn't keto.
It's like a carnivore diet, really, isn't it?
It's carnivore, yeah. So you've got, kind of. Even carnivore's a little bit more dramatic.
How strict you want to be with it.
Yeah. But fruits, kind of nature's dessert in a way, limit them, but I would use them around training. Vegetables, particularly cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, I would load with them, still carbohydrates, but the way they respond and your body deals with them is a little bit different, and their trace, like the amount of carbs in it is a lot lower, a lot more fiber, and then protein based. So technically it's not keto. I think what is very easy to do is label stuff.
Yes.
Like, this is carnivore, you only eat meat, fuck all else. This is keto, you got to be in ketosis, therefore zero carbohydrates.
Get in your head.
Yeah. There is a variation of all of them, which, okay, technically you're not going to be in true ketosis, but a lot of the fundamentals of naturally the glucose that you induce, and they will be way lower, insulin response, way lower, overall energy way better because you're still limiting those kind of fast acting carbs. Like, that's the best I've ever felt. But I think people struggle. I guess it's like everything in life. We want black and whites and we want answers, and so that's our way of doing it. Yeah. So, what would you say for those who are like kind of on the edge? They don't know what to do. They know they respond badly to carbohydrates. Equally, they know they probably can't cut it, or they're not willing to cut it out.
It's too much of a change.
Yeah. What would you say? Even alcohol, like beers and whatnot.
Yeah. I'd say it's. I was going to interject with what you're saying. If you think about what you've just said, is you were eating things that are probably one or two ingredients, like meat, fruits, fruit. You're eating things that are like naturally occurring, organic or non-organic. That's another argument.
Yeah.
But you said the best you felt is eating as naturally as you can, and I think that's the key thing.
That's true.
It's
a natural diet.
Yeah, and it sounds real like hippie and liberal, but the reality of it is, if you look on the back, the best thing is right. So you go and get dried fruit from the supermarket, right? It's dried fruit, dried mangoes. What's the ingredient list? What do you expect to be?
I don't, because I love it as well. But
you expect dry mangoes.
Mango dried out, surely.
Yeah, put it in. You've got all these preservatives.
Yeah,
and I
crazy.
appreciate it's got to keep a shelf life, fill in the blank, but that's not nature's way.
I saw something about, again, sorry, I'm just going off on tangents, but I saw something the other day about peanuts,
right?
Dry roasted peanuts. Apparently, the way they are dried and stored is actually carcinogenic.
I've heard that as well, actually.
Yeah.
You ever seen the worst thing? I remember reading an article saying that smoking's about the smoking bans, and that you replace the smoking ban with something just as bad. And it was talking about peanuts. I mean, admittedly, some blokes, Davis had 10 pints, gone for a piss, and washed his hands, and dipping his hands in the bowl was not great. But yeah. Again,
so it's all these things, isn't it? I actually, I want to summarize with that, because that is an important point of what you just said. We've kind of come to the conclusion ourselves. Probably the best thing to do if we're talking about general feeling, body composition or body fat percentage, and managing that to an optimal healthy level, daily functionality, all-cause mortality, probably a natural diet.
As close as you can.
Yeah, as close as you can to a natural diet. Organic, great, but single ingredient, naturally occurring foods. If you use that as your base,
good to go.
You're probably onto a winner. And if you go out and have the old fucking pizza, this is what a lot of people, I think, struggle with as well. It's that capitulation point. If you live, it's age-old adage of 80-20, but it's so true. Like, if you live your life in a way, when you go and it's your birthday or whatever, or you've got one of your colleagues leave and do whatever, and there's some pizza, have some fucking pizza.
Yeah. Don't say, oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah, just what you can, if you want to, you can do, but a lot of people don't want to. But understand, just because you've done that, it doesn't mean, well, if I can have that pizza, so I'll have that brownie now, and I'll have the 10 beers. And then
snowball, and you can't allow, you've got to be strong enough to go, I'll have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That's a cut-off point.
Yeah, oh, that's Friday, fucked. Well, Saturday and Sunday now, so I'll just get through that, and I'll start a new week Monday.
Start Monday, mate.
Yeah.
I'll start Monday.
Yeah, how many times, I mean, me and Char have said that so many times between us, to be fair. It happens, but if you can use that as a principle and a base, I think that's really important before maybe. But again, going back to what we're saying, try keto, because my experience of it was really, really good. It just didn't work at the time. I had to come out of it, otherwise that's a kilo over 20 weeks.
I think doing some pretty I mean, in terms of
I was on 1,200 calories.
Yeah, mate, which is insane.
1,200 calories.
Breakfast this month, 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
When I was playing rugby, mate, I was eating like 1,500 calories at breakfast.
Yeah, and that leads into another point with keto, and you alluded to it earlier. For those who are like, well, I haven't got that much fat to lose, what if I get too skinny, etc.? As long as you're not eating in a calorie deficit,
you won't get skinny.
No, you'll probably come down to a natural baseline. You'll be fine.
That's an important point to make. There is no silver bullet.
Yeah.
There is no magical tablet. I mean, steroids probably do work, and fat burners, right? So there is magical tablets. However, pharmacology, how it affects you, not good to go. But what I'm trying to say is there is no one magical food helps you burn fat. It doesn't exist. It's the calorie deficit that burns the fat. And I think that's the important point to make. You can have, like I said, about a natural diet, one ingredient food, and gain weight.
Yeah.
Like, you can eat kilos and kilos of potatoes and chicken and you'll gain weight.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it'd be harder because it's, in terms of the satiation of that, it's probably if you eat mashed potato and chicken, you can mash potatoes, eat chicken, and it can be like 50 grams of carbs, and that feel like you've ate a pizza because it's just dense and how it interacts, and it's not very moreish, is it?
No.
Pasta and pizza is so easy to eat. If you had a pizza Hut, mate, we could probably smash slices of pizza and you'd feel all right, and you'd be like, oh, I'll have a little bit more. Whereas I guarantee we go somewhere and I say, right, sit down, Jamie, and eat chicken and mashed potatoes and veg, you'll reach a point.
No matter how, after 2.5 breaths, and a decent
You're
serving
done,
of
aren't you?
potato, I'm like,
Yeah.
you'd be done.
And that's the key thing again, is to think about what you're eating, what type of food it is, where it comes from. That has a massive impact.
Yep.
And also, sounds bad, if it's a food's a bit more bland, you're less likely to eat for longer. Like, I think,
Yeah.
well, I've had enough now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key part of it as well. There is some psychology amongst how the foods you eat, how easy it is to digest, to chew, how that impacts your brain. So basically, what they say is that pizza, or take a Snickers bar, right? 250 calories of Snickers. If we were to lay out 250 calories of fruit, that'd be like a banana, an apple, a satsuma, a pear. That's like 4 things to eat.
Yeah.
Or I can eat a Snickers bar that's like yay big.
Yeah.
2 bites, it's gone. Well, if I say, right, Jamie, now eat the fruit, you're like, fucking hell, right? Banana, orange.
It's the density of foods, isn't it?
And the time it takes for you to, you almost go, I'm not hungry now. And that's the issue with fast, convenient food, is it's gone.
Yeah.
What's next? I'm not actually full. Well, your brain's not,
that's
with cavemen, your brain hasn't caught up with, the hormones haven't caught up with the food you've ingested. So it's little things like that as well. There's loads to it, isn't there?
Yeah. Again, it's a buzzword. It's a buzzword, isn't it? And there's many like services now that sell and make fortunes off that word. There's supplements that do. I think ultimately the only thing they can do, if they're listening, or you can do if you're listening, is test some stuff.
Yeah, try it.
Just see how your body responds. If you feel good, performance is still good, energy levels are good, you feel like you can build it into your life, there is, like, I'm a huge proponent for keto. If you can't sustain that and it ends up being this intense phase, you cut down your food too much and you just feel pretty shit, it's probably not the thing for you. And let that lead you. Don't listen to
anybody or anything else.
Don't listen to anybody and everything. As you said, Matt, there is no silver bullet. I think that's probably the best way to round the conversation off. In summary, keto, many benefits,
yeah.
Relatively unsustainable or hard to stick to for a lot of the population. If you can make it work for you, incredible.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to consider. So you're going to have to trial it, implement it.
Yeah. And it's little things like, before we wrap up, is like, in terms of impacting your life, if you've got children or dependents, a ketogenic diet can look as simple, or I say ketogenic diet, a ketogenic / carnivorous diet can be simple as you're cooking spaghetti bolognese and pasta, right? You eat the bolognese, not the pasta.
Yeah.
Sounds daft, mate, that's an easy win. Admittedly, there might be some carbs in the sauce, and broccolis and vegetables, whatever. But if you think of it like that, it hasn't got to be that intrusive and impactful on other people in your life.
Yeah.
Likewise, restaurants, can I have the burger without the bun?
Yeah.
That can be the easy wins for
steak and veggie dish or whatever.
Exactly that, mate. Yeah, that's the way around it. We can sort of
if you want it bad enough, there's ways to make it happen. And
exactly
make it work,
that.
No matter what your situation. So, to end on that, like we said, I guess trial it. Do it for, if you can, 10 to 14 days. See how you feel. If it doesn't feel right for you, then don't. But I think, to summarize again, not that there is a silver bullet. I think for a lot of people, for what they're looking to achieve, high energy, good body composition, relatively something that will support improvement of fitness and athletic performance, risk of all-cause mortality, I think the natural diet, as we'll label it today, would be a great way forward. Like sticking to one ingredient. I would still suggest high protein based, but one ingredient foods, natural foods, your fruits, vegetables, proteins.
Can't go wrong.
And you'll be on to a winner.
Nature's made, mate. It's the way it is.
Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop us a comment on anything else that you would like us to discuss on this podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.